Alright guys and gals, welcome to Game 2 of the Tiny Wars Open Tournament. I am Advanced Warrior.
And I'm CJ.
And we will be presenting Ruby on Will versus Tingle on Tabitha. So, let us begin. So, Will on this map, how do you feel about it?
Will is a pretty solid choice. As you may know, Will is the direct ground unit specialist, and there's a lot of open space on this map, so he's really good. Basically, he boosts the attack of his direct ground units, and his CO power boosts the attack of his units globally and gives them +2 movement. I think just the ground units. Maybe just the ground direct
Just
units.
the ground direct
units.
units.
I can't remember.
Just the ground direct units.
That's what I thought.
When's the last time you played Will?
Ooh, I don't know. It's been a little bit.
That's okay. That's okay. So,
but yeah, so it's a pretty good choice here. And yeah, we'll see how that works out for him. But,
yeah, very open
talk
map.
about Tabitha?
A little bit. Very open map, which is completely okay since indirects are a little bit harder to use. Will probably wouldn't mind the missing attack bonus coming from his indirects because again, it's such an open map. Now Tabitha, we all know as that one CO who can only boost one unit at a time when she starts, but that boost is excruciatingly huge at 60% offense and defense. Now, that sounds very powerful, but forgive me for my lack of standard experience and Tabitha experience, but I feel like Tabitha on this map will be very, very tricky to use. Yeah, sure, she has an amazing boost to her 1 CO unit, but there are two problems that I find. One, the map is so huge and so open, it's gonna be a little bit hard to get Tabitha in position to even start attacking to gain energy to like boost her zone to at least 1. And 2, it is on standard. I personally feel like Tabitha is a lot more stronger in Fog, where she can be more sneaky with her CO unit and then try to throw in some unexpected energy charge and hopefully boost her zone from there. But Tingle seems to have a trust with Tabitha on this map, so we'll see what they do with her.
Yeah, you're exactly right. In Fog, Tabitha hits like a truck because she comes out of nowhere. She isekais you. But on standard, you know what's coming. You can kind of set up for it. You can retreat if you need to. But yeah, on Fog, it's very easy for her to get a free 10 charge, just one-shotting one of your units out of nowhere. And that's really scary because then she only needs 2 more turns to do the same thing and then get up to zone 1, and then it's almost over. But,
real quickly, I just want to say that we have a double base skip already coming from Tingle here. That Battlecopter better put in some good use if it's going to try to fix that unit count deficit. But there's an anti-air on the other side from Ruby, ready for that Battlecopter. Yeah,
there's... I think Tingle kind of overcompensated there to deal with that recon at the top. He's kind of responding a little bit late, and so that Battlecopter seemed to be necessary to them to kind of respond quicker. If they had made a tank earlier, or even just a recon of their own, it probably would have been better, but we'll see how this goes.
I believe if Tingle built a tank, they would have been able to afford an extra infantry and not have to base skip because that tank already takes up one of those bases. And here, I almost said first strike, I'm sorry, but here we see that there's a slight numbers advantage on the bottom left coming from Tingle and a little bit on the top, but there's a recon to challenge all of those bikes on the side of Ruby, and the anti-air following up with that Battlecopter very close by. I don't know if that recon wants to stay and harass, or if that recon is comfortable there when the anti-air reinforcements is on its way.
Yeah, that recon, at least it can contest. It will take up space, but I don't think it will be able to do too much. That B-Copter definitely has more mobility over there.
Double anti-air coming from Tingle from the last turn. I can kind of understand, like, maybe the Battlecopter. Right now, it's a little hard to tell where Ruby will take their Battlecopter. If they will bring it to the right, if they'll bring it to the bottom. So I can kind of understand that. Does put the Battlecopter in a slight predicament, but just a quick glance at the map, I don't see a tank advantage coming from Tingle. Like, Ruby has the tank advantage with like 3-1 and the bomber.
Tingle built a bomber. I think we know what we're gonna see with this.
Don't tell me we're going to see it. Don't tell me we're gonna see it.
Now, I've actually never seen this in a game before. I've certainly never done it myself, but I think we're gonna get a Tabby bomber. That's gonna be wild.
That's decent blocking coming from around the Battlecopter from Ruby, but I don't know if it'll completely protect it. Not entirely sure. If it tries to fall back, the anti-air might probably reach, but the Battlecopter could just intercept it as well. And here we see the double anti-air coming from Ruby. I know I kind of said a little bit about Tingle building double anti-air, but double anti-air against a possible Tabitha bomber. Oh my god, they did it. Tingle did it. We got the Tabby bomber. All right, so
now,
go ahead.
Go ahead. So I think the double anti-air from Ruby is warranted, but the double anti-air earlier from Tingle is kind of preemptive, considering that there's only one B-copter for red on the field. So I don't know about that composition choice. I feel like it might come back to bite them later. Yeah, I mean, the outcome of those decisions only comes a few turns later, so.
Here we see Ruby already getting some charge from their CO zone. A tank right next to a tank, but there is backup for Ruby, which is why double anti-air feels very uncomfortable right now. Like, that anti-air on the bottom possibly could have been another tank and maybe double contest those tanks. And here we see Tabitha, Tingle moving Tabitha up just a bit slower because the anti-air is right there. Like, I don't think it'll kill it, but it's a very heavy threat for that bomber. And not only that, but there's a duster coming from Ruby as well.
Yeah, that anti-air won't kill, but it will, it's definitely not worth, hitting it, or definitely not worth being in its range.
Yeah.
And with those anti-airs covering each other, I don't think Tabitha is going to get anything over there.
Yeah, if Ruby gets the first hit on that Tabitha bomber, the bomber will just be put out of commission, and it's going to heavily struggle if they're going to try to get any decent amount of damage just to get that plus one zone that Tabitha really enjoys.
Can't exactly tell just at a glance what the status of income is looking like. Tabitha does go for the kill, but there are anti-airs nearby. There's a lot of things that can break that wall. Tabitha will take a heavy hit, I feel. Let's see how much damage that actually does.
4. And now down to 2. Only 4 damage, but the double anti-air, as you said, properly warranted for Ruby, and that bomber is now deemed kinda useless, I guess. Kinda.
Yeah, it got some charge from that. I think it's maybe at like 20 right now, but with only 2 HP, there's not much that Tabitha can do with that.
Yeah, Tabitha's gonna have to probably suicide that bomber or go back for repairs, which might be something that Tingle is inclined to do. But
yeah, I think Tingle can go back for a join, but it's still a lot of investment. That's like, what, 30-ish K that went into that bomber, and it's like almost dead.
Oh, yeah. The rig coming from Tingle. So possibly a temporary airport, but I don't know how far that rig is gonna go to like make that airport for the bomber.
Yeah, that's a kind of weird move there. I would. You don't see rigs very much. Just
You don't.
at
You
all,
don't.
unless there's like a map that I don't know, maybe uses a lot of gunboats or something, like, and then you need like a lot of like replenishment of ammo and stuff. But yeah, like temporary ports or airports are typically not commonly seen.
Whoa,
Also,
that tank just went right in. I think the tank's a little overextended. But, that tank is going to get heavily punished. Only 1 tank to 3 for Ruby here, but I don't think Ruby would mind falling back a little bit and then maybe getting a few pot shots on that overextended tank on the bottom left. Another bomber from Tingle.
Ruby can hit a lot of the tanks at the top and just be completely chill, like this, yeah. There were a lot of tanks that Tingle had, but they didn't have, anti-airs nearby. I guess, okay, the anti-air is there now.
I love the infantry wall from Ruby here, forcing Tingle to have to use one of the units to open up a side, and then another unit to open up another side to hit the tank from 2 sides. But there's only 3 units on the bottom side of Tingle. Tingle's really gonna have to put some fantastic use in that bomber if they're gonna possibly come back from this. There they get the free hit on the battlecopter and they get a nice hit on the tank, and Tingle starts to pull back, brings the bomber forward and joins them. That is 50,000 all on that one single tile coming from Tingle's income.
Yeah, Ruby is looking pretty good right now. I mean, they just have like a better unit count. They have full CO power. They don't need to use it for a while. They have the entire top is now theirs, or top right is now theirs. Bottom left, they have a little bit
of a death ball.
Like, they're pretty strong, but they're not overwhelmingly strong over there. But they definitely can afford to be a lot more patient, whereas Tingle is starting to lose properties, or will soon lose properties. I think they're at a pretty distinct income disadvantage, actually. And
that's the game.
Tingle just resigned there. There wasn't a lot that they could do. There was there wasn't very much anti-air nearby to deal with the Duster. That was a huge income disadvantage.
25 to 17, 33 units to 15.
There was just a lot of investment into that one unit, and that's what's really hard about Tabitha is, like, I mean, you can't have her boosting multiple units, at least not in the beginning.
Personally, Tabitha just felt like a huge gamble for a map like this. A map that's like so big and so open. It's gonna be hard to like get that charge, especially in standard where everything is a lot more calculated in fog. And you can't be unpredictable in standard because you could just see everything. Well, maybe you could be unpredictable in some amounts, but just the fact that your opponent knows that your CO zone is only going to be 1, and they only need to worry about that 1 unit. I mean, this bomber, I probably would have liked to see maybe as a possible harasser, like a unit overlapper. Like, they don't want to attack into this unit because the bomber's in range, but for Ruby's case, it was completely okay because somewhere on the top they had 2 anti-airs that were ready to dismantle that bomber. And that 2 HP bomber wasn't going to survive another hit. It wasn't going to do a lot of damage. Tabitha was just in a really difficult position to try to find what they could get out of their bomber.
Yeah, usually Tabitha tends to be better with like tanks, for example. It's just, something that's already going to be there, something that doesn't die super... Well, I mean, bombers don't die very easily, but like...
Neither does a Tabitha unit.
Yeah. But when the investment, you know, in just putting this EO unit there is already a lot, but putting too much into it, then you don't have a lot of presence, really, on the rest of the map. Tanks or mid tanks even can typically exert a lot of pressure, even with a lot of units around. You know, even when there's a lot of tanks, even if there's a battle copter, like a medium tank can still exert a decent amount of pressure. But a bomber has a very difficult time when the enemy just has 2 anti-airs there.
Yeah. Anti-airs that can do a lot of damage to a bomber, even 4 damage on a Tabitha bomber. So, that is the end of game 2 of round 1. Ruby moves on to round 2. Thank you guys so much for watching, and stay tuned for the other matches that will come along in this tournament. You all have our warmest regards.
Thanks for